Hello and welcome to the property vlog and to a new feature that we've got, which is a live stream feature. So I'm going to do a bit of a series talking to property professionals, people in the property industry, people with inspiring stories, companies that provide services and help us as property investors and developers sort of develop our businesses. So I'm really excited that today we've got Isla and Kieran, who are from Archilime. So I'm going to bring them in, and here we go. Hi guys.
Oh, yeah.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Yeah,
Yes.
Really good. Really excited.
Good.
Really excited.
Yeah.
Good. Me too. Excited and a bit scared, but mostly excited.
You told us about
saw
that
you-
intro video. It's very good.
Yeah, I
big
saw you
fan.
bopping to it. I could see you.
Yeah.
So yeah, it wasn't on the live stream, but I could see you
Okay.
nodding your head. So
Good. Good.
yeah, so a bit of an intro. I had a bit of a boring one before, so I thought I'd upgrade it. So yeah, thank you guys for joining. As I said, this is the first live stream that we've done. I'm going to make an effort to actually look at the camera and not look at you guys, because otherwise it might look a bit weird. So we are live streaming onto Facebook, and LinkedIn and YouTube and Twitter. So it's very exciting, and hopefully some people will get value from this. So I've given a bit of an intro about what we're doing this video series, but just can you give us a bit of an intro into yourselves and also into Archilime as a business? We're going to talk about some of the services that Archilime provide and some of the top tips that you guys can provide to property investors and developers. But let's jump in with sort of a bit about you guys, what your role is in the business, and talk a bit about the history of Archilime. So I don't know who wants to start. Who's best placed to sort of start with that?
Okay, so I'm Isla. I'm the client relations manager here at Archilime. So I've been with Archilime since January last year. So I'm just over my year anniversary, which is very, very exciting. We've had a mega year. We've had a really, really exciting year. We've got involved in lots of new projects, met loads of new clients. The property market, as you all know, and as everyone watching will know, has been pretty explosive in the last 2-3 years since COVID began. We have been able to be a part of that and been developing our services alongside it.
You guys are based down in Devon, aren't you? So
yes.
Do you cover across the UK or mostly Southwest focus, or?
Yeah, so we work all over the world. We work all over the UK. I think our furthest project is Abu Dhabi,
Wow.
And our closest project is probably about 10 miles away.
Yeah.
So lots of different kind of projects, different environments.
Versatile, ultimately.
Yeah, great. That's amazing.
Yeah. So we're looking over the River Dart here. So
nice.
We're very lucky.
What does your role entail? So client services manager, what does that actually mean? I mean, I know because you're the one that chased me, but what does that actually mean?
Yeah, so I actually used to do Kieran's role. So Kieran's our account manager. I used to be in the account management role, but moved over to client relations in the last 3 or 4 months. So my role primarily is engaging with existing clients, meeting new prospects, keeping up to date with property goings on in the local area, kind of business development as well. So looking for opportunities for us to widen our service reach, that kind of thing. Do you want to talk about?
That sounds good.
About what you do?
Yeah, so as I'm sure you can probably expect by now, I'm Kieran. So I'm the account manager here. So I only started in November last year, so I'm still very, very new. I come from a very heavy retail management background, and ultimately wanted to do something very, very different. So I reached out to Jack, and here I am. Ultimately, I think my role is the mediator between the two parties. I think Archilime in general has got so much going on that they need that middleman to keep the structure and the communication alive between both the client and our services, just to ensure that it's as smooth process as possible.
Yeah,
amazing, cool. And talk to us a little bit about the history of Archilime. So when was it founded? How did it start? What was the sort of foundation of it?
Yeah, I mean, as the newbie, I feel like Kieran should answer these questions if he's meant to have them.
Yeah, this should be from your job interview.
Yeah, see if I've done my homework.
Give it a go.
Yeah, so ultimately, Archilime started about 8 years ago. I think we're into our 8th year now. Initially, it started in Jack's bedroom. So, quite humble beginnings, really. So Jack and Dan were the two founders of Archilime. So they both met at university, and fast forward 8 years, here we are now. Instead of 2 people in a bedroom, we're in a really nice building just on the side of the river, and there's 3 departments. So it's been quite a large growth in a short space of time. But I think ultimately that's down to Jack and Dan's hard work, and obviously all of our specialists getting involved as well.
And so we'll talk a little bit about the business in a minute, what it is now. But how did it start? Was it just sort of drawings, CGIs, architecture work? Like what kind of stuff did it when it was a sort of bedroom business?
So I think if I've done my homework correctly on KHP, I think actually it follows a kind of similar thing to you guys in that Jack and Dan went to Plymouth University. Did you guys? You guys started?
Yeah, myself and James did.
Yeah. I have done my homework.
Okay.
Great. So Jack and Dan went to Plymouth University to study architecture. They had a module within their architecture degree which was about visualizing your design. So they had to draw a design and then present it in a way that was engaging. It was through that they discovered CGI and visualization. And actually, they much preferred that bit than the designing bit. So they might say that they met over Football Manager, but I think this is a much better story. So they had a shared interest. They self-taught themselves for many years. They very steadily built up. So we used to work primarily with architects, and over the years we've begun working more with developers. So we do still work with architects on a day-to-day basis, but our primary client base is developers now.
Great, amazing. Okay, well we'll come to talking a bit more about the sort of what the value proposition is for property developers and investors, and I've actually got some examples of some of the work that you guys have done for us on a couple of our schemes that we've been working with you on. So but let's start with talking about the sort of interior design. So in fact, is it easiest to go, what's the total scope of what you guys do, and then we can drill down into the specific areas that you've done some work with us for us on. So I mean, from my point of view, it's interior design, it's visualization, it's like the specifications work, promotional videos, those kind of things. But you've probably got a much more articulate way of describing what your business does, so I'll leave it to you.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, well, let's have a go. So we work with developers, we work with architects to offer a full marketing suite. So that covers visualizations, which are our foundation of the company. We then expanded into being able to offer all design services. So that goes across branding, company websites, development websites, location films.
Yeah, encompassing both physical and digital. Marketing.
Great.
Yeah. So we brought in Emily, who's one of our graphic designers, who you've worked with, Emily. So we brought in Emily first of all, who was able to kind of open us up to this new service that we could offer. So before we were working with estate agents, we would do the visualizations, hand over the CGIs. The estate agent would then take the CGIs and put it into their stock brochure, usually. Sometimes, depending on the development, they had a personalized brochure. But there was a disconnect because we would be handing over CGIs, maybe with a very contemporary styling, and then they would go into a very traditional brochure. And there was just an opportunity to say, actually, we can offer more than just the viz. So we were able to expand into into design. A similar thing happened with the interior design services that you've mentioned. So we were already offering the CGIs. That's our phone. That's fine.
Busy. Never been on this call for so long. Nice.
So we were able to expand into interior design. So we were
Yeah.
already offering the branding, the brochure, the websites, all of that kind of stuff. We were already doing the interior CGIs, and the artists were responsible for the interior design. And we just thought, actually, there's way more to offer here in terms of who's your target market for these properties, for these homes. Is it a family? Because a family are going to need a completely different interior design look, scheme, or is it a very luxury high-end apartment? Because those two things in my head are very different, and therefore that needs to be thought of at visualization level so that we can get it out there, so that it is instantly attracting exactly who you want it to attract.
I think with that, just to sort of run on the back of that, it just introduces our sort of like tailor-made bespoke packages for these clients. So obviously, like we've worked with yourself in the past and stuff, and even now, like, and I think that sort of like creative influence from all of these departments all under one roof that can talk to one another. There's that clear, concise communication, and we can all sit in the same meetings with, so for example, yourself in the past and other clients. It just makes everything a far easier experience as a client, I think.
We can definitely relate to the sort of, and I suppose our journey working with you guys as well has sort of been, we've taken the journey from just doing some external CGIs and just doing some internal CGIs, and then, you know, location films, and then sort of the 3D tours, and then the new project that we're doing in Exeter, which we've got some stuff we can share. It is more getting towards like the whole package in terms of interior design, in terms of brochure design, the visualization, CGIs, 3D walkthroughs, and those kind of things. And it definitely ties it all together a lot better and a lot more, because you've got a consistent theme running throughout it. You can, and it helps us, I suppose, crystallize what we want as well. As a developer, we can then also understand a bit more about what we're doing, which impacts other decisions we're making day to day. So we've definitely been on that journey, and I think I suppose the key thing is, obviously there's a cost to it, and we just looked at that as the main reason we're doing it is to try and add more value to the units. That's what we've sort of called this value. This video is maximising property value. Like, the objective is to sell these units for as much as possible. You know, not to try and you know, fairly sell them for more because they're worth more, because they're better designed, and they're, you know, the story's better and they're well thought through, and they'll be nicer places to live. So sell them for more, and also sell them quicker. And the exit is obviously one of the main parts of property development, is actually being able to exit the development. So we've definitely been through that journey with you, and can relate to some of the stuff around like having, you know, disconnected branding running throughout the thing. So I think that's
definitely. And I mean, we are, so as we've been able to expand our offering, we have been able to see the results from doing that. And we know that clients who go for a more comprehensive package, what they get at the end is a much more comprehensive offering to be able to show potential buyers. And when a potential buyer sees that you're putting effort into the branding, you're putting effort into the CGIs, you're giving them the impression straight off that you are a house builder who cares about quality from the very beginning. Definitely. And we see, you know, we work in the visualization business. We see lots of house builders now using CGI, but the quality that they use is then indicative of the quality of their build. And I think that's really interesting in terms of what we're offering. Is what do the developers using our stuff, what does that say about their end product?
I think it's a nice reflection of us as a business as well. I think there are so many sort of creative influences, especially just under our roof in general. And I think the end result that we sort of tailor to the client is just a reflection of how passionate we are as specialists. And I think,
and that definitely comes through in the work. Like we'll go through some examples of it, but you definitely see that.
It's the bit of a cliche, but we really do care how successful your exit is from when you're selling the houses. You know, we don't want to just hand something over and then wave bye-bye. You know, my entire role is based on we need to make sure that they get a result and that they want to come back and work with us again, so that their journey, your company journey, expands as our kind of company journey expands as well.
Yeah, definitely.
And that we're able to.
Well, let's go through some examples, because I think it would be good to show. So I think let's start with should we start with the Trinity House video, which I think is.
So you're now going to see we can talk to the talk, but can we walk the walk?
Yeah, I know.
That's all right, I'm saying it.
Yeah.
Here we go. There we go. Okay, so like as this is playing, like talk us through some of the, how do you go about? In fact, I can probably turn the volume down a little bit. There we go. I'll leave it on a bit. So talk us through like how you would go about the purpose of a location film. Obviously, we've got some CGIs in there. Talk us through some of the elements of this.
I think it all boils down to those initial meetings. I think before we even take out a camera and go mad, it's about understanding what the client wants. And I think it's about, this sounds super cheesy, I've been rehearsing this one for a while. It's about creating the visual and physical rendition of your dream as a client.
Yeah.
And I think when it comes to the video, it doesn't get better than that. It's a very real life experience. And I think those initial sort of questionnaires and meetings and consultations is all about really ironing out all of the kinks, so we're all on the same page. The content will always come later. It's all very well and good getting through 3/4 of the way down a project, but when you realise at that point that you actually haven't got enough information, it's not very consistent, and it's a bit, I don't know. Yeah, we just want to make sure that everyone's on the same page from the get-go.
Definitely. So for this project, I think you said right at the beginning that we've done a few different projects together already with kind of varying levels of the scope of work. So for Trinity House, we worked primarily on the visualizations and the location film. So we didn't do branding on this one. So we had to work very closely with you about exactly kind of what direction we could take the location film in, given that you already had certain assets. So and that happens, we won't always have every single element. So how do you work with what you've already got as well and make that work? So for example, with Trinity House, you already had a specification. So we were able to make sure that specification was passed over to our artists to then put that into the CGIs. You had a vision for the location film, so let's make sure, so this is Kieran's role primarily, let's make sure that vision for the location film is passed down to the guys actually going out and shooting it. What are the shots that you really want to see? Is it that rising up over the building? Perfect timing, seeing the sea.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I suppose that's the point, isn't it? Because from our point of view, I had a very clear, and I suppose a lot of clients will have a very clear image of what the end product's got to look like. So that's what you were saying, Kieran, about trying to draw that out of the client in terms of what are they expecting to see from it. And for 100%. Me on this one, which we've delivered, which you guys have delivered really nicely, was that the rising shot. I'm just going to take that off. The sort of rising shot over the back of the building, looking out to sea, and that's because that's the view people are going to wake up with when they live in those units. So really happy, and again on the ideally, and what we're doing, or what we've done on the next project next to, which we'll talk about shortly, but ideally would do everything with you, and you guys would have all of the collateral designed by you guys from the beginning and stuff like that. But with this one, we were halfway through, so you say, you have to take in the specifications done, the logo for the actual scheme, sort of that kind of stuff's done. So you're limited in that stuff. You just got to try and pull it together to make it look as good as possible. And that actually, really, really happy with it.
Absolutely.
And go on, sorry. No, go on.
Well, just that you are working, every single project is different. So something that might work for one developer who has 20 units will not work for another developer who also has 20 units. We've got to be making sure that in the quotation process, which is my role primarily, is that what are the things about these two different projects that make it completely different? Is it that you've got a beachside location, you wake up and you see the sea, or is it actually that you're really close to the supermarkets, the cinemas, I don't live in a city, can you tell? The gym, that kind of thing. So, and how do you make sure that comes across in your branding? How do you make sure that is evident in the visual materials that you're putting out? And that's what we take care of.
And also, I suppose, what what's hot at the moment with sort of COVID 100%. And lockdowns and things like that, and people were looking more regionally, which is probably part of the reason why you guys have been so busy. Even though you've got projects worldwide, you've got several like clients and lots of clients locally and in the southwest. And the southwest has been so hot for property. And why are people moving there? Well, it's because of the views, it's because of the space, it's because of trying to work out what the macro trends that are driving people to move out of cities, and trying to incorporate that into the promotional material as well, which I think you guys have done really nicely. I'm going to bring up some stuff on branding. Kieran, is there anything you want to add to that in terms of location film or anything that?
No, I think we sort of highlighted everything quite nicely, and Lila tied it up really well. So
great. So let's move on to so that was Trinity House. So Trinity House is, we're converting a sort of former NHS building that was derelict into 8 apartments and 4 houses as well. So that's a really exciting project, and we're sort of progressing well on site there, and we're going to be bringing the units already on the market, and they're going to be finished in sort of the next few months. So that's very, very exciting. The next project that we're going to run through is our conversion of a former private school in Exeter, which is Bramley, which is currently in the planning process, but we should have the determination by the end of January. We've had to make some tweaks to the scheme. So I'm going to share some of the stuff, and I think we'll start with brand guidelines, if that's all right, and I'll just bring that up if I can work out how to do it, which is here we go. So give me a sec. Oh no, there it is. So it's called Richmond Grove as well. It's not called Bramley anymore. So actually that was part of the process, and go through that. So let's talk about this. I don't know who's best placed to discuss it, but we'll talk about the process for coming up with the brand and what that means.
Sure. So like you said, it used to be Bramley. Bramley was the initial name. It was then renamed to Richmond Grove. So we needed to know that before we could get started on the branding kind of journey. And it is a journey, because we'll be looking at the site itself, we'll be looking at your intentions, your target market, we'll be looking at your location, we'll be looking at your competitors. We do a kind of 360-degree review of what is this development, and therefore what does it need to look like. We then presented you guys with 3 options. I love the branding experience. I mean, it was one of the first that you kind of saw when you joined, because it is so expansive and it's so fun. I think so often you can kind of get stuck down in the nitty-gritty planning applications and contractors and just the paperwork. And actually, the branding is such a fun bit.
I think it's so easy to get sort of bogged down and just think, you know what, all I need is a logo. I'll just go get somebody to make me a logo. But in this experience, it's so immersive. And we look at the heritage, and we sort of really encompass what it is so in this example, to be at Richmond Grove. And I think you almost like create its own identity and its own story, which I think really sells as well.
Yeah, it's exactly what you said. You start to build the story. So you're building the story with the name, you then build it with the brand. So do you want to go on to the next slide? Let me go down to this one. And actually, just before we go through this, I was just going to talk about some of the inputs that went into it, because I remember it very, very clearly. And is it Emily? Was it Emily that Emily?
does Emily does this stuff. So and sort of some of the inputs watching. Is she? Okay, good. I'll only say nice things, Emily, don't worry. So some of the inputs into this were, like you said, the heritage of the building. So what was it before? And actually, that's through this process is where the name Richmond Grove came, because that was one of the original. That was the original name of the building from, I don't remember the year, 18 something. So and that's part of also the ethos of our company as KHP, is that we're we're working on heritage and listed buildings, so it's really important for us to sort of hark back to what buildings were previously. So we did a project in Crediton which we called the Orchard House, because it used to be an orchard where the care home is now, and you want to detach it from its, people know it locally as the former St Lawrence care home, but you can't call your new development St Lawrence, because you want to have, you want to say, okay, that was the history at that point in time, but this is a new part of the history which is going to link back to what it was previously. And Richmond Grove was obviously something that it used to be called. The other things were, I remember sort of competitor analysis. So what are competitors doing? What's the kind of, like you said earlier, what's the clientele that's going to be buying this stuff, and trying to target it towards those. Is there any other, what are the other inputs into the branding process at the beginning? Was that it? Is that
so competitor studies?
Yeah.
We're looking at competitors. So we know in Exeter, Exeter's going through a huge transformation at the moment. It's got a lot of really exciting new projects. So looking at what are they doing, who are they targeting, what's going to make this one stand out. What are the estate agents saying as well? So we work quite closely with estate agents as well, because they have a knowledge set as well that is invaluable to us.
Absolutely.
And we want to get
they're the closest to seeing, they get the feedback from the buyers, they're working 100%. With developers all the time, they can see what's working, what's not working. So there's huge value in leveraging those guys. Okay, should we go through this then? And we'll talk about the ceiling rows at some point, because that's sort of the logo is quite a nice part of this. So okay, let's start here.
So right at the beginning of this whole project, Jack, who's our MD, and Annie, who's our interior designer, went to walk round Ramdean, then now Richmond Grove, and they took a series of photographs as they walked around it. And I think it's fair to say it's definitely in need of renovation. So they took loads of photos, and when the branding kind of journey was started, those photos were passed over to Emily as a graphic designer, so that she could kind of see, what is this building going to be, what's it going to look like. And in looking through those, there was a photo up in the ceiling of a ceiling rose, and Emily saw it and thought, brilliant, that definitely has to be one of my concepts. She was then able to freehand draw it, which is quite tricky, because I think there's a lot of symmetry in there, but she did it and presented that as one of the options. I think originally it was she gave a few different color variations as well, and then we look at different color palettes. So we know that in Devon, the kind of colors associated with Devon, it's a green place. It's, particularly at this time of the year, it's like dark green. You're looking at those golds. I'm looking out over the River Dart now, so I do have a bit of a head start on this. But just the kind of the colours associated with this area, we try to bring those in as well. So we've got the gold as well, which shows that it's quite a luxury, high-end development. And just using those elements.
So I mean, the ceiling rose idea instantly sort of struck a chord with us when we reviewed it and went through the different options, and it's just such a nice, it's so subtle that no one would know unless you tell them about it. But then that's it's a nice thing to be able to tell potential buyers. But it just fits so well. So we really like that. And what I liked about the process that we went through to get here is also sort of with the naming and the stylization is. We decided that what we liked was elements from the three different options that were presented, and I guess that's the point of doing a few options, is that different things might work well with different combinations. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. So you might like the logo from one concept, but you might like the tagline from another. So within this process, I think. So Emily will give rounds of amendments. So I think it's 2. And then she's able to basically mix ideas together and offer out these different logos. She's also able to advise on what you should go for and what you shouldn't. I mean, less what we shouldn't, but she can be she's the expert, she's working with logos, she's working with graphic design every day, particularly if we're working with kind of new developers. they do really value that experience,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
be able to say, this is your target market, this is going to speak to them. It's
a tricky balance, isn't it, with the client stuff? Because I guess if the clients always, well, we've always got an idea of what we think it should look like, but if we knew all the answers, we'd just do it ourselves. So you sort of want to have, and I guess it's a tricky balance for you guys. You want to have, like you said, you want to be strongly recommending certain things because you're the experts, but at the same time, it's the client's got to make the final decision either way.
Yeah, and there's a personal connection to the decisions that they make.
I think ultimately we could just agree with you the entire way through, but I think I mentioned a little bit earlier, like we're all passionate about what we do, and I think working on these massive projects that are so exciting, like even from the early stages, like we already start brainstorming ideas and concepts then. Like this whole journey isn't just for the development itself; it's for you as a client and for us as people who are investing their time into these. And when they sort of come into fruition and out the other end, and seeing all of these things that we've sort of created as a collective is really inspiring.
Yeah, it must be amazing to see all the stuff you guys worked on. And I think, like I said earlier, that whole process, and it is a journey without trying to sound too sort of snoopy. It helps us crystallize our thoughts, and it also helps us if we've got any sort of discussions that we've got going on at sort of a director level. It helps us actually formalize which direction we are going, so it sort of helps us through that process as well. So I'll just run through this one, and then I've got something else that we can share. So we've got the logo there, we've got the variation, so if it's on different color backgrounds or whatever, which I really like as well. It's like really simple. It's nice. The white on gold I think works really, really well. And then obviously the colors and the palettes and things to use on different stuff, just to make sure it's consistent, and that we're not we can put it on whatever we want, and keep it consistent with the design and how it was intended. And typography and all this stuff is so important. And I think when you look at amazing brands, you might not think about it, but the consistency is so key. It's just it's never, you never see Coca-Cola written in a different, stylized in a different way. It's just that is the way, and it becomes
100%. And so we also offer company branding as well. So if it's a company branding, you need to make sure that everything then fits into the umbrella. So we're able to give variations within. If this is your company, this is what your development could look like as well. And it's exactly you said. It's all consistency.
It's quite funny you mentioned company branding, because one of our other companies, Moorview Property, we a post came up on James, my business partner's Facebook. It was like a reminder 7 years ago or something, and it was trying to decide between two logos, and we got them done on Fiverr. You had a Fiverr?
Oh yeah.
So we got them designed on Fiverr, and it's quite embarrassing. We're actually still using one of the logos we designed there. So we may well need to do some company branding work with you. But it was quite funny because there was two, and they were both sort of as bad as each other. But we sort of put it out to a poll for people to vote on what it was. So but it's so important. Well,
have you watched The Apprentice? Because that is the logo that everyone's talking about this week, isn't it?
Oh, I haven't seen the new one. Is there a new?
My goodness. Yes.
Is it what, for the actual Apprentice the show, or is it a task within the show?
No. So it's a task within the show, and I won't ruin it.
Okay.
But they produce a logo, which I think has all graphic designers just crying, just because it's so awful. It's so.
They've done it. So they've just done it themselves. Oh God.
Yeah. You should really watch it. It makes me feel fantastic about myself.
Yeah, I bet. No, I haven't seen it. I need to watch it. I usually like watching The Apprentice. So No, I'll have to check that out.
Definitely do.
So I mean, anything else on brand guidelines? I mean, we're not at the position where we've got the final. In fact, we haven't got the final brochure that I can share, but I have actually got the. I think I've got the floor plan concept, which is probably another nice one to share.
Yeah.
If I bring that up.
and brochure concepts as well. So when we're designing a brochure, we do the branding first of all, and then we propose different options for the brochure layout, how people will engage with that, and then within that we also draw all of the floor plans. So you absolutely can just use architectural floor plans within your brochure, but they're not as engaging. The furniture isn't always laid out in the most efficient way, effective way. So we like to consider all of those things and then make sure it's in your brand guidelines. So
and I think there's a couple of things there. I think the order of the brochure is an interesting one, because it's another one of those things where if you ever pick up a brochure, you probably don't really pay any attention to like what order the pages are in, but actually the whole thing is a story, isn't it? And if if you're selling the development to a certain type of people, they might want to see floor plans first. They might want to see what the local amenities are. If it's younger people, they might want to know like where the gym is or where the restaurants are or whatever. Or if parking's a big selling point, they might want to see the site plan and see where the parking is and where the electric parking bays are and all that kind of stuff. And there's so much thought that goes into even just the order of which how the pages come in the brochure.
100%, because if these are high-end properties, the people that are viewing it, they're paying a premium for the property already. So you want to be upping your market value, showing them your offering from everything. So if they get a floor plan which is really difficult to read, it's too small, it hasn't been kind of proofread from a reader's perspective, it just instantly makes me as a buyer go, if this is the kind of thing they're not giving time to, what else are they not giving time to?
That's it. I mean, ultimately, you're selling the experience, not just the product at the end of the day. And I think that's something that we really sort of pride ourselves on. And as you mentioned, like it's okay to put a site map or something in a brochure, but when the work is so good everywhere else, like why would you stop there? And I think the design team here do a really phenomenal job. I know that the word consistency has been thrown around a lot, but just ensuring that everything looks as good as one another.
It's so important. I think consistency is you can't overstate it enough. That is like one of the core things. And when as a developer, if we're getting things piecemeal from different people, we take some stuff from the architect, we take some stuff from a visualization team, and we've got a web designer doing some stuff. And previously, our estate agents have done the online brochure or the websites, which they've done really well, but they're never joined up. And I think it's just so key to see how it all moves through. And even on this, I really like just showing the floor coverings of different materials, and just just really being able to visualize and actually see yourself living in this space. It's really, really nice. Cool. Okay, that's one sort of. I think we're actually going to do either that as an insert or the other page as an insert, but that's going to be part of the brochure. And then if I stop sharing that, so there we go. And then I think I've got one more on the CGIs, which are
great.
Okay, give me 2 secs. Here we go. Here we go.
Branding is a great one for us to kind of talk through, because we've been able to get involved in so many different areas of that project, and we're still quite early on in the process.
Absolutely.
So like final planning hasn't come through, so we've been able to propose a strategy, and that in turn creates a marketing strategy where we're able to look at and launch the parts of the project that are already approved. Whilst waiting for the rest of the planning to come through, so that you're not wasting any time. You're getting it out there. You're building a buzz already, ready for when all the materials are out. You then push that out, and that's it. You've already got a list of clients ready to say, I just wanted to see that final virtual tour, but you've already shown to me exactly what this development is all about. I'm there. I'm already hot. I'm ready to buy it.
How do you So that's an interesting point around sort of the planning stuff, and I know we've had it with branding, where we've had a bit of a delay on the planning and stuff. How do you guys, from your internal business point of view, how do you manage? I mean, because you're working with developers mostly, I guess. The delays and people taking longer to make decisions, and planning delays and unforeseens and COVID and everything else. How do you as a business manage? You've got a pool of talent and resources that you've got to leverage. You've got certain projects you need to deliver. How do you manage those sort of unexpected delays and trying to keep projects on track? I suppose one thing you mentioned there was doing the bits you can. So if it's a planning thing, then you know that some part of the scheme is safe from a planning point of view. You can crack on with that. But how else do you sort of manage?
So
I think it's hard. I think it is really hard. I know that especially over Christmas, like we had like a few projects that maybe didn't align up the way we thought they would, or as you mentioned, like delays and stuff. And I think it's the fundamental changes that need to happen in-house sometimes are quite drastic. One week you can go from working on this massive project, and then the week after you could go to a much smaller one. And I think it's all about sort of managing that workload for us. Obviously we take as much care with every project as the rest of them, but obviously like these things happen, and especially in this climate, like anything can happen at the drop of a hat. And I think so long as we are consistent in our approach, but also in our planning internally, that's really, really sort of fundamental. And last week, to throw in a massive example, I don't know whether you were paying attention to the Instagram live takeovers we were doing, but
I didn't see that actually. No,
Oh, no way.
Oh, Kieran.
No, I did. Sorry, I did. Yeah, I did see them. Yeah, I did see them. Yeah.
Nice backtrack.
I didn't see yours. I saw
Annie's. Annie's is this week.
I saw Annie's. Yeah. That's what I saw. Yeah.
So there was a day last week where myself and Dan were spending like a really large chunk of time just to ensure that, obviously, with certain delays we've had in house, they don't affect us. And it is a very big juggling act. And
do you have to have sort of a full team meeting every week and like say this project's delayed, you guys are doing this week? That kind of stuff.
But I think also like it falls into consistency again. Just making sure that at least once every week we all know what's happening with every single project we have on. And sometimes like there isn't a lot of development, but it's really sort of paramount for us to highlight everything, absolutely everything. Leave no shoes untied.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Kieran and I work very, very closely together because as account manager, Kieran's main role is to know everything about everyone and every project. And my job is to know what's coming in. So Kieran might know that this project is either they're taking longer to get back to us, or it's going to go on hold, or some kind of hiccup. And then my job is, well, actually, I've got this prospective client, and they need something ASAP, but I wasn't sure we could do it last week. But are you saying there's now time? Yes. And then we can action it. So, for example, we had a big project go on hold just before Christmas, and it meant that we suddenly had 2 or 3 weeks where the team were free, and that hasn't happened for months, right? And it's nice in a way because you think, I can have a breather. But for us as managers, it's
a logistical nightmare.
It's a nightmare. So
to put it lightly.
So we very
you got to fill it with something big enough to get them involved, but not so big that it then carries on over when they've got to go back to the other thing that was delayed. It must be very really hard to, lots of Gantt charts, I imagine.
And a lot of communication very clearly between us and the clients and us as a team. So we did have a project that we didn't think we were going to be able to do. We were suddenly able to do it. It was about me talking to the client, making sure that they were in a position to move forwards tomorrow, which they were. And then it was down to Kieran to actually make it work, because this was all on the condition that the team could work together in a cohesive way to get it done. And we were able to do an entire project in 2 weeks, which is unheard of.
Yeah, which is a first for us. it was one hell of an achievement that we're all super proud of, and especially when the
Yeah.
very last day of the project was also our last day before Christmas.
Yeah.
It was a very nice feeling.
Kieran was dressed as Santa Claus, arranging final project handovers.
Yeah, I was like, please, let's just talk on the phone. No Zoom calls today.
Yeah.
I was going to come down, wasn't I? I wish I'd come down.
Yes, you were. Yeah.
You had Christmas jackets and stuff. Yeah.
No,
I don't envy you guys. It must be it must be hard work. So just to swing back to branding, because I want to be sort of conscious of your guys' time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Take the time to do this. So this is obviously a kitchen for one of the apartments. Amazing. Been through a couple of iterations, but like fantastic. Really happy. Happy with how it looks, and you can see, you know, I can see myself living there if I was going to buy one of these. And then that's the living area, which is sort of the other side of the room. It just just fantastic. Like and talk to us a bit about the sort of amount of work that goes into something like that to produce that.
Sure. So the very first step to us producing this interior CGI was that we created the interior specifications. So that starts with a concept board, first of all. So a concept board of the space will give you an indication of what's the look we're going for, what's the mood of the room. Is it, like I said earlier, is it fit for a professional couple? Is it fit for a family with 3 kids? You know, those interior schemes are going to be very different. And it's through that we work with you as the client to get all of those external finishes. So that's floor, walls, door handles, all of that kind of stuff. So from that point, we have the interior specification. We then source all of the exact things that you're going to need to buy, make sure that that's in budget for you, hand that over to you. You say, yeah, all good. Our kind of building team will action that. Meanwhile, our visualization team, so Ella was the artist on this one. Yeah. Ella's able to work with that specification list to make sure that the floor that she's putting in is exactly the same as what you're going to order for that actual apartment, so that you don't have that dreaded thing of, you said this was an oak floor and actually it's an ash floor. You know, we've definitely
had that before, not recently, but in past years we've had that when there's been a bit of a disconnect, and it's I mean this is I love this image. I think it's so nice. You can see that you know, you've got spaces for having dinner, for relaxing. It's just a very social area. The TV isn't really the center point. It's there, but it's not like it's just sort of it's there because everyone has a TV, but it's not like the focal point. It's like a social place where people will be hosting, you know, potentially young families or older people entertaining. So I love it. Really
and the whole kind of, I think there's a slight misconception about visualization, which is that we are painting a falsely positive picture, but actually the whole point of our visualization is actually this is what it's going to look like. We can show you before and afters of previous projects of this is the CGI we did and this is what they actually built out, and those two things match up. We use I'm probably going to say it wrong, but it's like geo hotspotting, so that you know exactly, you can see in this image you've got that sunshine shining through. If it's a sunny day, the sunshine will actually shine through in that way. That's just how our models work. We can't fake sunshine. This is actually how.
If it's a north facing, you can't get you can't just fudge it and put some sunlight in. It's
exactly. And
well, we have those conversations with clients again. Like we've spoken to them in the past, and they're like, "Oh, can we get sun coming through?" And we're like, "Well, hang on, like, actually, it really happened." And sometimes it's quite frustrating, but again, like as we've mentioned a little bit earlier, it's understanding that we've asked all of these meticulous details that might seem like quite a lot initially, but when we get to this sort of stage, it's so lifelike, and those small accents, obviously, like you mentioned, the television and stuff, but there's so much like life going on in these images.
Amazing. So I think that's all I've got to share in terms of the sort of images we've got to share. So obviously we've been through some of the internal visualization, the CGI images on Trinity House, which was the previous one we shared. We've also got the 3D walkthrough, which is like a 3D tour, like if anyone knows the Matterport style tour, or like a Google Street View style, where you can actually walk through the through the building, and that is basically this image, but you can navigate round and you can zoom in, and you can look at it as like just a normal floor plan, or you can actually go in and walk around it, which is amazing. And I guess the natural progression for that eventually becomes like sort of VR and having VR headsets and stuff, and you can actually is that something you guys either do now or have got plans to do in the future for this kind of stuff?
We used to offer it. We haven't offered it as much in recent months, only because you need a certain level of technology and it's less accessible, whereas these virtual tours, so this schoolhouse flat will become a full virtual tour. Ella's working on it at the moment, and that all you need for that is a laptop. It works on your phone as well. You can then send that link out to prospective buyers. You're done. It's an immersive experience.
It's amazing. And I think that, you know, when you get to the point that everyone's got a really high quality VR headset in their house, it's probably worthwhile. But otherwise, I think one thing we did discuss with Savills, who's bringing this to market, is that they might have some space that we can have a sort of pop-up place that people can go before the actual site's ready. They can go to the Savills offices and have an area where they can actually go and put on the VR headset. So it might be something that we can do down the line, but you got to have the tech to make it work. So we've been through the internal visualization, externals. We've been through the location film, which did also feature some of the CGIs and stuff that we've got. We've been through the branding, the branding pack, and the brochure concepts and the floor plan, things like that. I suppose before we close, is there anything else that you guys want to add that you think would be value to sort of developers? The whole purpose of sort of doing this video is to bring value to other people, document some of the stuff that we're doing in KHP, but also bring value to other property investors and developers that might be going through a sort of similar process. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I think we could both talk about what we do, what Archilime offers, for a long time. I can give you the full breadth of services, but whether that's related to you, to the people watching, we'd need to have a conversation about exactly what the needs were. There's lots of other ways we can get involved. Maybe it's not for market, maybe you're not at that stage yet, but you're still working the design process, and actually you can't figure out whether you should have this colour door or that colour door. We can offer a 3D design development service as well in those very early stages, and then we kind of progress it forward. So there's lots of stage points at which we could get involved in a developer's project, and we're available to talk about it.
Amazing. So what's the best? Go on, Kieran.
I was going to say, carry on, Mike.
I was just going to say, what's the, you know, if anyone's got a project that they're halfway through, or they're struggling to sell, or they're thinking about coming, you know, starting a new project, or they just put an offer in and they want to understand exactly what they should be doing, what's the best way for people to sort of get in contact with you?
So best place is our website. So if you just Google Archilime, you'll find us you'll find our website, and from there there's our email address and phone number as well. We kind of take it from there. Everything is we'll offer a phone call first of all, just know a little bit more about you, a little bit more about your project, and from there we can advise on next steps.
What I really liked as well on that was the sort of menu of services that you can have, and I think we've been working with you for a while, and now we're at sort of we just want to buy everything because we know how good it is. And again, back to the consistency point, we know it's going to be consistent from start to finish, and it helps us crystallize our thoughts and things like that. But you know, if you've got a smaller budget, or if you've got a smaller project and you want to just choose specific parts of it, it's going to be way more value than not doing it. So I think that was 100%. A really nice part as well, being able to sort of pick and choose the products 100%. And services.
Yeah, exactly right. And there's lots of different packages and services that we can offer for different budgets. There's no one fits all. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, guys, for joining and being part of this. It was the first time we've done a sort of live stream like this, so I think it's gone all right. But I'll have to actually check if any of it's actually.
Yeah,
I think
pretty
you
much
did great.
seamless. I mean, my phone did go off. I've got 2 phones, both of them went off. My watch started ringing, and
I didn't notice.
no one noticed,
Yeah.
so I could have just not said anything. We'll have to actually check on YouTube if any of it's actually been broadcast or not. So,
yeah.
But yeah, thank
Whether
you
it's
so
just us chatting.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's just a really informative Zoom call.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, it records it anyway, so even if it's that, we can still put it online. But yeah, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for everything that you've done for KHP, and we look forward to the next stage of the process for the branding project. So yeah, really excited.
Fantastic.
Yeah, for sure.
Lovely.
Thanks, guys.
Well, love to see you.
To you.
Yeah,
Bye.
and you.
Cheers then.
See you soon. Cheers, guys.